President Trump said the detention facility would house, quote, some of the most vicious people on the planet. But a recent investigation by the Miami Herald and the Tampa Bay Times found that several hundred detainees had no criminal record. The American Civil Liberties Union has filed a class action lawsuit against the Trump administration and Florida officials on behalf of the hundreds of people who have been detained in the Everglades facility. That suit claims that constitutional rights are being ignored via a lack of access to legal counsel and violations of due process. That includes 35-year-old Michael Borrego. He is one of the people at the center of the ACLU lawsuit.
Home videos of Michael Borrego in South Florida show a doting father to his 2-year-old daughter, Athenia. Borrego left Cuba in 2019, legally entering the U.S. at the Mexican border. Borrego's mom, Yanisi Fernandez, says her son, just like her, was fleeing political persecution in Cuba. She finds it hard to believe he now lives in fear of the U.S. government. He was sent to Alligator Alcatraz just days after it opened.
That isn't a prison. That's a concentration camp. That's a center that is torturing him.
Fernandez believes his detention there has made him sick. We spoke to his lawyer, Mitch Gonzalez.
He woke up in a pool of his own blood, and he had no ability to call his lawyers to report what was going on whatsoever. His only option was to beg for help from officials who really do not see him as human. The detained men in his same cage made enough of a fuss. They took him in an ambulance to a hospital.
Borrego had hemorrhoid surgery and 2 days later was sent back to the facility where his wound became infected.
He was in excruciating pain. He suffered another emergency where he soiled himself, was again covered in blood, and was denied by officials a change of clothing. This is degrading and inhumane treatment.
Gonzalez says he's not just concerned about his client's safety.
People have reported not being allowed to shower for several days on end. People have reported finding worms in their food. People have reported flooding of the toilets, resulting in feces and urine all over the floor.
Gonzalez says Borrego should have never ended up here, that he had a strong case for residency after he was granted humanitarian parole. But Gonzalez says, like many immigrants, Borrego lacked adequate legal counsel. And when Gonzalez had a run-in with the law while employed for a pool company, that changed everything.
He was working for an employer that, unbeknownst to him, was running a major fraud scheme.
Gonzalez says Borrego was too afraid to risk time in jail, so he said yes to a plea agreement.
And this is something that is very common in the U.S. justice system. You know, people take plea agreements for things that they did not do or certainly did not intentionally do all the time in order to avoid the trauma of being separated by prolonged imprisonment from their families.
Borrego pleaded guilty to grand theft in 2024, a second-degree felony, and conspiracy to commit grand theft. But then Borrego was cited for driving with an expired license.
He immediately took steps to notify his probation officer. His probation officer reassured him he could come in and that they would resolve the matter without it escalating further. Instead, he was apprehended.
On Monday, more than 2 weeks after Borrego had arrived at the facility, his attorney had still not been able to have a confidential call with him.
The last time that someone from our legal team went to visit, they were frankly told and flatly told by an officer standing guard outside the gates that there would be no in-person legal visits at that facility. And that is truly, truly shocking to us. That is not something I've ever experienced in any type of carceral facility, be it an immigrant detention center, a county jail, a federal or state prison.
Fernandez is desperate for information. She says calls from him are sporadic.
I can't find anything out about my son. I don't know if he's in the hospital. I can't see him. I can't do anything for him.
She finds it almost incomprehensible that she now thinks her son might actually be safer in Cuba.
And an update on this story. On Wednesday, Gonzalez was able to have his first confidential video call with Borrego. It took 16 days to make that happen. Gonzalez says he is still trying to reach an ICE officer assigned to this case. Thanks for watching. We've got more great content for you, from news to the arts to the environment. So be sure to like and subscribe to WGCU's YouTube channel and follow us on our social media platforms for the stories that matter to you.